If your dreams don't scare you, they're not big enough. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. Hey, you! How's it going? How are you? Welcome to this, your Thursday edition of the show. Yeah, Thursday. You know what that means? That means this time tomorrow, you will have officially made it through yet another week. This is no small accomplishment. You're doing awesome. Hang in there. You got this. You are a badass. And if you need something, if there's anything I can do for you to make your Thursday better, hit me up. I'm here with you. I'm here for you. At ADSXE. It's where you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. At ADSXE. Put it in your phone now in case you need it later. Thank you so much to everybody who started supporting the podcast on Patreon. Like I've said before, it means more to me than I was expecting. It means more to me than I can fully understand or explain, but it made me feel super connected to you and super cared for. And I remember when the first one came in, I was just blown away. I was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. So if you decide you want to support me on Patreon, that would mean an awful lot. A surprising amount, as I'm finding. If you don't, or if you can't, and you just want to listen, that is cool too. These are conversations about your life and mine. These are conversations that seem to be centering around mental health, and I believe conversations like that should always be free and available to everyone. If you do want to kick in, you can do that. Patreon.com/ADSXE. That's patreon.com/ADSXE. So like I said, if your dreams don't scare you, they're probably not big enough. And the reason I say that is because I got a really nice message from Kayla on Facebook who said, AD, first, let me say I'm so sorry about the loss of your father. Thank you. Your stories of the last few months and everything you did for him to bring him home made me realize that I should spend more time with my parents and tell them that I love them every chance I get. Yeah, you should. I'm not saying that you didn't do that stuff enough, but I can tell you that telling someone you care about them when they mean something to you, telling the people that you love that they matter today, I don't think there's any way you're ever going to regret that. And I know they won't. Like the old expression goes, you want to give them flowers while they're here, not when they're gone. So I'm really, really glad that me sharing my experience with my dad has made you double down on telling your folks that you love them and spending more time with them. That's awesome. That's yeah, that means a lot to me. Thank you. Kayla goes on to say, I miss you on the radio so much, but I love this podcast. I just signed up to support you on Patreon. Thank you, actually. So you're that Kayla. Okay, thank you very much. Like I said, it means a lot. My question for you is this. How did you wind up doing what you do? I get this one a lot. Kayla says, I have a good job. I work in the mortgage business, and it's been one of my best years yet. My job is safe. It's secure. It's nice helping people buy their homes. That's a good feeling. But this is not what I wanted to do with my life. I don't know exactly what I want to do, but this isn't it. The reason I ask you, plain and simple, is because I wish my life was a little more like yours. I don't want to be a radio DJ or anything, but I want to do something different. Years ago, I met you once out at Scout Bar. For those that don't know me from the show I did on the Buzz in Houston, Scout Bar is a great venue out in the Clear Lake area, and many a badass night was had there by me. I used to be out there every single Sunday night hosting. Kayla said, your band had just played with Smashing Pumpkins, and there you were on stage again, hosting a night at the club. I talked to you, and you seemed so down to earth and easygoing, like an ordinary person that just happened to be doing some extraordinary things. But how did that happen? Where did you get the courage to do all this crazy, interesting stuff? Did you go to college for any of it? Kayla. So it's funny you should mention that particular weekend, Kayla, because I remember it. I remember it really, really well. At the time, I was working for SiriusXM I was on Alt Nation and Faction on Sirius XM. I was also working for 94.5 The Buzz in Houston. I might have been on some other stations as well. They hadn't started to spread us around the way they did in later years. But I was doing all that. I think I'd done something for Fox TV. I had a TV show at the time as well. I just played with Smashing Pumpkins and Jimmy World. And this was all in one weekend. It was nuts. It was crazy. And there I was doing a club appearance right after. And it's funny you should point to that weekend and go, I want to do something more like that, because I remember at the time going, this is a little too much. I got to narrow it down and focus on some stuff. I've got too many plates spinning in the air, and I'm going to drop one. And it's time for me to decide what the hell I want to do with my life. So, grass is always greener and all that stuff. But that weekend was amazing. It was incredible. And it made me feel like, okay, enough is enough. I got to figure out what it is I want to do. And I decided what I wanted to do really was focus on radio. And it wasn't that I didn't love making music and I didn't love playing with some of my favorite bands. Getting to play with Smashing Pumpkins and Jimmy Eat World that particular weekend was insane. I am a huge Jimmy Eat World fan. It meant an awful lot to be able to share the stage with them and to say, hey, this is really cool. And at the time I was in this band, and it wasn't the band that I sort of made my way in the world with, the one that I joined when I was still in England, the one that got a record deal and went around the world and made albums and toured and all that sort of stuff. This was another band that I was in because I love music and I love playing live, and we were starting to get little nibbles from record labels at the time. We were getting some airplay, and well, there were people sniffing around us, and a couple of record deal, what they call deal memos, had started to come through, where it's like, hey, this is our proposal for a record deal. Are you interested in taking it further? And I remember looking at them going like, this is not like the good old days when I got my record deal right before downloading completely changed the face of the record industry. This is a significantly more Spartan operation that involves eating a lot more peanut butter sandwiches. This is something that is a lot of vans and no tour buses. And it's a tough road to hoe. And as much as I love playing music, I don't know if it makes sense to spend 12 hours in the back of a van for 45 minutes on stage. That was something I did when I was, 18, and it was great. But, I was a bit more of an adult at that stage in the game. I think that was about 10 years ago, this weekend you're talking about. But anyway, that weekend made me feel like I got to focus. I got to drop some things before I got to drop some things on purpose before I drop them accidentally. So, if you're looking at a weekend like that going, I wish my life was more like it. It was fun and it was interesting and it was crazy. And I do remember that weekend, and I do remember going, man, that's nuts. But I also remember that being sort of not my breaking point, but my point where I was like, something's got to give. So I decided to let playing live in a band go. I decided to let the television show I was working on go. And I just gotten an offer of a development deal from some legit TV company. And I was like, this is not really what I want to do. I want to be on the radio, and I need to put 100% of myself into doing radio, and I need to focus on that. And the answer is no. No, I didn't go to college for any of this. Now, if you're looking to, I definitely relate to what you're saying, because I took the road less traveled. When I was a kid, somehow I lucked out and I got really good. I scored really well on my SATs. And I got this thing, the National Merit Scholarship, which meant, hey, you filled out, the little boxes correctly, so we're going to give you money to go to college. And I got a free ride to Tufts University and New England Conservatory of Music. And I did not go, much to the chagrin of my parents. I was in this band, not the one you might have seen me in, but one previous to that when I was still living in England. And that band got a record deal, and I found out that if you offer a teenage boy a choice between a dorm room and a tour bus, he will take the tour bus every single time. And that sort of, took me around the world and put me here in America. I'm American, but I grew up in England. And when all that came to a screeching halt, when Seagram's bought Polygram and all of a sudden we didn't have a record label and we had a song in the charts and they told us that we had to bring the tour bus home because it was all over, that made me figure out some stuff. So like the craziness and the stuff that you see and the doing these things that are not necessarily following a traditional path, certainly not the way that any of my friends from high school did stuff or other people in my family did stuff. That wasn't like on purpose. That was a matter of survival. I was forced to piece together a life out of kind of nothing. I decided I needed to eat and pay rent. And so I started DJing. I started DJing anywhere I could play music. I was living in New York City at the time. Anywhere I could play music and get paid for it, I would. Everything from some swanky clubs and lounges in New York City all the way to the cheesiest weddings and bar mitzvahs that Long Island had to offer. I was doing it because I needed to make money. And, well, there were times where I'd be doing sets at bars and they're like, hey, you need to announce the specials. It's Thirsty Thursday. And I would do that. And someone said to me once, hey, you've got a good voice. You should try and be on the radio. And at the time I was pretty aimless. I didn't know what I was doing. Like I said, I was just trying to survive, eat and pay rent. And, I remember someone had told me, you got to figure out what your gift is, what your gift to the world is, and just pursue that. And I thought about that. I took that to heart. And I thought, I think my gift is my voice. Whether I'm singing on a record or singing live or whether I'm talking to people. There's something about communicating with others, specifically communicating with my voice, that, well, if I have any kind of a gift, maybe that's it. And I better be gifted at it because, I was at that age where all my friends that I did go to high school with, they'd all graduated. They were getting out of college and had degrees and had real jobs and new cars that ran and paychecks. And I didn't have any of that stuff. I was literally scraping together whatever kind of life I could. And I was like, all right, I got this notion that if I had something to offer the world, it was my voice, and I needed to go 100% into that. Cut to a buddy of mine who'd been in radio for many years, a guy who you might know if you listen to him in Houston, you might know if you listen to him in New York City, you might know if you listen to him on Faction, a guy called Will Pendarvis, who was like a really good friend of mine, said, you should be on the radio. It's easy. Just here's how to make a demo. And so I did. And, well, it got into the right hands of someone at the Buzz in Houston, and it got into the right hands of someone at Sirius XM. And I got one crappy overnight weekend shift a week, and kind of have been trying to weasel my way up ever since. And really it came out of necessity. I thought when being in a band came to an end, I would go to college. And then I realized, I can't. There's no money for that. I mean, I could figure it out. But then I was also thinking to myself, gosh, what did I want to go to college for? To be a musician, to be a professional musician. That's why I was going to go to New England Conservatory of Music. And, well, I'd already sort of done that. And the other thing I wanted to learn how to do was be a journalist, be a writer. And here I was on the verge of kind of sort of doing that as well. And I was like, I could, scrape up money somehow and get myself back to college and study journalism and music. But I've done the music, and I have a shot at doing the journalism part, the media part, the radio part. So doing all this weird stuff, I guess, came from two different things. It did not come from going to college. It came from a need to survive and, well, a decision that I made, foolhardy and ridiculous and pie in the sky dreamer as it seemed at the time. I decided that my gift, what I had to offer the world that was special, was my voice, and that was how I was going to make my way in the world. And it kind of sort of worked out. I mean, I'm glossing over a lot of struggle, a lot of pain, a lot of suffering, a lot of different kinds of things that, would put anybody off wanting to do this stuff for a living. But it worked out. I was forced to piece a life together. And being forced to figure things out for your survival, that's going to produce some interesting results. You've got a good job. You've got a job where you're comfortable. You've got a job where you find some meaning. And these are all important things. But you want to do something that's a little bit more outside the box, or you want to find out what that is or what that's like. And I don't know what that is for you. But the way it worked for me was thinking about what it was I had to offer the world. What was my gift? It sounds so out there and so pretentious and so like some cheesy meme. Oh, what's my gift? Figure out how you're going to give your gift to the world. But I did kind of wind up doing that. And I will say, if you are itchy in your current job, if you're in the mortgage business, and anybody who knows anything about real estate knows that the real estate business has gone crazy over the last couple of years. I'm not surprised you're having some of your best years. People are buying homes left, right, and center. And if you're in the mortgage business, it has been a time full of opportunity and success and profit. But if you're having all those things and you're still kind of wishing to do something different, I'd say that's an important step. And this goes for anybody that is doing something where they don't necessarily feel like there's a ton of meaning to it. If you're itchy, if you're looking to do something more, something different, something that takes you outside of the life that you're living now, that's a good sign. It means you're motivated. A lot of people would take a comfortable, easy existence where they genuinely felt like they were creating some value the way you do and be cool with that. And if you still feel like you've got some stars you want to reach for, that's a good thing. Now, there is that line, that famous line, if your dreams do not scare you, they're not big enough. And that comes from a woman called Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. And I don't know a ton about her, but I do know that she did some pretty remarkable things. She is from Liberia, and she was an economist who was president of Liberia for, I think, over 10 years. And she stands out because she was the first woman to be elected head of state of an African country. And I think she also, let me see here. She won a Nobel Peace Prize in 2011 she won a Nobel Peace Prize in 2011 for a non-violent struggle for the safety of women and for women's rights in her native Liberia and all over the world. If your dreams do not scare you, they are not big enough. So it's good that you're dreaming big. David Bowie once said that you do your best work outside of your comfort zone. Anytime you're uncomfortable, anytime you are doing something that challenges you, anytime that you are doing something where you're like, oh, I'm not good at this. This is awkward. People are going to see me be awkward and not good at something, and I risk failing. Well, that's where I think a lot of the best things happen. I don't know what's going to happen with me next. I was in my previous job for 17 years. But besides the fact that it came to an end while I was in a foreign country looking after my father, and I needed to give myself space to look after my father, I feel like a big part of the reason that I am out there now betting on myself, not necessarily knowing what's going to happen next, was because I was hungry for some growth. I was really, really fortunate to do what I did for as long as I did it. But I got, like you, itchy and uncomfortable and felt that somehow, somewhere, some way, there was more. And Kayla, or anyone else, if you hear that inside of you, don't ignore it. I'll say it one more time. If your dreams do not scare you, they are not big enough. That is it for me. Thank you so much for hanging out. Thank you for being a part of my radio family. As always, this time that you and I spend together, it's the best part of my day every single day. I'll be back tomorrow. We'll do it all over again. Have a great one. Later.